Hello, welcome back to the podcast. This is Erin. I am recording this today on All Hallows Eve, Halloween. I got my special mala on from my beloved student, Crystal Wolf. Hello, Crystal. And yeah, I am continuing with the series coined by Amanda Curtin, which is the 1, 2, 3 process. This process is something that I have used in my life. I've used with my clients. It is something that my partner and I have really found a lot of success with. And you know me, whenever I find a tool that works in my life, and again, I teach these tools from the space of the own experience that I've had within my body. I don't just like look them up online or in a book and then blab about them. The thing about being a yogacharya is that you speak from the experience of your body and what's unfolding in your life. And I always try to do that for y'all. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for your heart. So today I'm going to talk about the 6 red flags that you want to be familiar with, recognize so that you can recognize that you're in a triggered state. This is part of the work, like the first step of the 1, 2, 3 process is to, you know, recognize when you're triggered, call it out, and then start to connect it to a childhood memory or instance where you felt the same way, and then try to unpack it. So, the first the first red flag is hyperarousal. If you have a strong emotional reaction to something somebody said or, someone or some circumstance, we know that you're probably triggered. So I say this often. I say if there is something outside of you that creates a strong emotional response, it is because it exists within you. And so this is totally in alignment with what I'm already teaching, but I really love the way that she breaks this down. And by the way, she's on YouTube. I believe she has websites. I'm actually going to reach out to her and see if maybe she'll be on the podcast. That would be lovely. So yeah, if you're in a hyper aroused state, like you're just, it's like all of a sudden you're minding your business, you're living your best life, and then all of a sudden, something happens, somebody said something, and like like the wrath of all the gods inside of your heart flaming, just like, you know, probably recognize that you're triggered. So that's the first one. The second one is the opposite, which might be a little bit harder to recognize, which is hypoarousal. And that is when you kind of shut down. That's when you're, I don't care, whatever. And you just sort of like go inward and become stoic, you start feeling numb to yourself. So this is a nervous system dysregulation, which I have already discussed on the podcast a couple episodes back, maybe about a month or two ago. So if you know that like you're usually a little bit more animated, like recognizing this is important. And here's the thing, there's no shame in being triggered. What happens though is if you pretend it's not happening and existing, it can't get better. And so, surrounding yourself with people that, again, like close friendships and things. I always make the joke about the bagger at Publix. Like, he asks, "How are you?" I'm having some issues, like just memories of my mother that are coming up, and I'm getting really triggered. Like, that's above his pay grade. So, but for me, the people that are in my circle, I can talk about these things. Certainly choosing a time, making sure that the time is appropriate for this, not in between errands or something, but making sure that you have people around you that can hold space for these things. My friend circle has certainly been upgraded many, many times, and I love to surround myself with people who are growing, who are into tools like this, who love talking about, the depths of what makes them tick. So okay, so hyper arousal, big emotional response to the things around you, something said, etc. Hypo arousal, where you kind of shut down and it's like very stoic. And then the next one would be polarization. So children and politicians polarize. But we also polarize too when our sort of blinders go on, like the sort of horse blinders, and it's either black or white. When we're in that state, it is driven usually by fear. So if you find you're saying things like, you always do this, you never do that, It's always this, like it's very polarizing. And here's the thing is, in accordance with the four questions of Byron Katie, there is number two. So it's like, is it true is number one, based on whatever statement you have going on in your mind or whatever belief system. Number two is it 100% true? And that's a great question because you can think, yeah, it's true. But is it 100% true? Like all the time, pretty constant? It's harder to get a yes out of that. Most of the time, you're like, well, it's like 98%, but 2% might be in doubt. And with that framework, it causes a little wedge of kind of breaking the grip of what your ego has latched onto as far as absolutes. So if you find that, you have the urge to, or maybe you already have, like using polarizing language, or the person that you're kind of working with in a relationship is also using polarizing language, that is a red flag that you have jumped cannonballed into a triggered state. So the next one is victimhood. So I talk often about Stephen Cartman's design of the drama triangle, and then there's the empowerment dynamic. But the drama triangle is when we step into one of three of the points of the triangle, which is victim, persecutor, and rescuer. Those are the three. And so when we're in this space of victim, we have to either have a persecutor or a rescuer. And it's important to recognize if, like, you feel attacked, if you feel helpless, all these things like that is a sign that you have stepped into victimhood. If it feels like you can't get out, like it's hopeless, all this stuff, then that is a sign that you have hopped into the sort of victim mentality. And it's important to recognize that so that you can climb out of it, that you can get out of it. And it's very possible. So we have hyperarousal, hypoarousal, victim. And then if you find that, like, all of a sudden in the moment, you have, you look at your partner or you look at your friend, whoever you're doing this process with, and like they seem repulsive to you. It's like, why am I with this person? Why am I friends with this person? So as a fearful, avoidant attachment style, that's my attachment style. This happens sometimes for me. Like, so I love my partner, and but sometimes when something is triggered, and I we can have a sense of humor about this because I bet I'm not the only one. But you're like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? This isn't right for me. And I'll start that sort of process of the fearful avoidant attachment style, which is pushing away, get away from me. I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I here? Type of mentality. So when that happens, it's good to take a few deep breaths, take some space, and try to create that space within you. If you can create some space within you, then then you can come to some kind of resolution. So the thing is if you're caught up in those stories, right? So the stories from your childhood, they're unresolved, they're unacknowledged. There wasn't space and time for your parents or caretakers to be able to work through the stuff with you. Maybe they didn't have the skill set, maybe they didn't have the tools, all these things. So, if that's the case for you, then recognizing that, this happens to everyone, that, they tried their best, and, trying to recognize these triggers allows you to take the space. And then it's like once you work through the process, you resolve it, it's like all of a sudden the feelings of love come back. And that isn't that interesting because a lot of I've coached a lot of couples, and even just, one side of the couple, and they'll say, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't love her anymore. And I like to say that, like, love is something that you choose. Love is something that you keep coming back to and that you work through. People may or may not agree with me, but through my, again, direct experience of my body being in conscious relationships, it's something that needs to be worked on and something that can be chosen. So it's certainly can also be related to, like, a big feeling that you have, like it can be like a verb. I'd say it's more of like a verb. So, okay. So we have hyper arousal, hypo arousal. We have victim, polarization, um, 180. And then the last one is when we have coping strategies. So when we're going towards coping strategies, like it's like in the middle of a fight, or, like you've taken some space and like all of a sudden you want to dive into a bag of chips. All of a sudden you want to like throw back a couple of drinks. All of a sudden you want to smoke or whatever your thing is, like whatever to sort of soothe yourself. If you notice that you're going into that pattern, it's really important to recognize it and, say, okay, I'm triggered. Take the space. I find that it's empowering to, even though it might sting, you might feel like I'm not triggered. But if you can recognize it, it's taking accountability. It is stepping into your power. And the more that you can step into your power, the more that you can resolve conflict. So, and I really, again, I love this framework. That's why I'm doing a series on it, is because it allows us to look at these issues with compassion. You know, when things get heated in a conflict, a lot of times compassion goes right out the window. We say choice words that we don't mean. And, it just causes bigger problems in our relationship. And then there's like a lot of healing that has to happen from someone who has done that time after time. And, luckily in my relationship, we're very committed. And so we have had to use a lot of tools because for me, I'm the type of person that if it's not working, and this might be my attachment style, I want to walk. So then it's like, okay, well, if I'm not going to walk, I'm going to make it better. And we're going to work together to make it better. And finding a partner that will walk through the fire with you and try to use these tools, I think is really important. So, anyways, that is my 6 triggers, red flags. Just want to make sure I got all of them. So we have hyper arousal, hypo arousal, victim, polarizing, 180, which is where you like kind of turn on your partner and they're no good. And then the last one is coping strategies. All right, I think I got them all. So that's just off the top of my head. I don't have any prompters here, just so you know. I memorize all this stuff and then I use it from the experience of my body. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm going to be doing a couple more podcasts on this topic. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Erin at erincoach.com. Look up Amanda Curtin. I haven't met her. She probably doesn't know I exist, but I'm a huge fan and maybe I'll have her on the podcast in the future. If you haven't heard, also a couple of things. I have right now two more spots for India in June. So that's very exciting. We are spending 2 weeks there. The food, the accommodations included. Every room is a private suite that has a private bathroom, AC, eggs for breakfast. Amazing teachers. You get to spend time with me, lots of bonding. And the way I lead my immersions and retreats is I try to take you into the depths of your heart and we work on some deep stuff. So, that's the kind of people that I like to work with. If you just want like a vacation where you're having margaritas and like floating in one of those tubey things down like a lazy river, probably don't come to my retreats. My retreats are not like that. They are, they can be intensive, but they're balanced with free time. But I have enough activities to where you feel engaged. You can go into processes within yourself that is properly facilitated. And, not all retreats are made equal. My retreats are not just, okay, in the morning we do yoga, then there's a big break, then there's breakfast, and then maybe there's yoga again, lunch, 5 hours of free time, and dinner. That's not how my retreats go. I have a pretty detailed itinerary. Again, you have some free time, but I've been doing this for over a decade. And then I also I love doing what I do, and that really comes across. And I think in my podcast that comes across. So yeah, just so you know, my retreats are awesome. So just gonna say that. I'm also doing one to Japan, which is awesome because I used to live there. I speak the language, and I would love to have you join me. So we have an early bird pricing up until January 15th. You can check out the website, thriveyogafit.com, if that tickles your fancy. And waka waka shimasu. I hope that you'll join us in Nippon. And yeah, thank you so much for stopping by, and namaste.